So I checked the 2015 Monster 821 tank, which has no leveler. This is just a one-piece fuel hanger, and there's 4 pins here. They're switched by a relay. Over here, you have 2 nozzles that come off. The one on the right that has an S marked on it is a hole that directly connects to like a water relief near the top of the fill area. The other one, as far as I can tell, is connected to something like a vacuum switching valve somewhere in this hanger to help trigger the VSV when needed, which seems kind of peculiar because I have 4 pins, which is power and ground, right? And then you have 2 connections for low fuel level, unless one of those is not using a signal ground and is using a chassis ground, in which case the other guy could have a trigger for doing VSV things, or there could be a PCB on the system that has a VSV controller based on pressure without anything leaving this space. That or mine is clogged, but there is no airflow whatsoever in or out of that, so I think there's no need to cap the hose if you do a charcoal canister delete. That could possibly cause starting issues. I'm not sure of that, but suspect. So here's the tank as well. I noticed 5 Newton meters, plus or minus 10%. To do this tiny, I think 3mm screws that go on there, the 6 of them, and some mention of grease there in the drawing. So check this out. Speaking of grease, I was doing a visual, opened these up, and there was a ton of like oil inside of this guy's side, on the smaller side here. I don't think it was dielectric grease. It smelled very much like motor oil. I don't know how that would get there. There was no sign of oil anywhere else in that space, or on the bottom of the tank, or on the air filter. So I don't see how that could have blown up, even with all the stuff coming around from the leaky oil sensor. But I just went ahead and cleaned it off with compressed air, blowing through the connector top this way and blowing through that way with them separate, and then I hit them with a bunch of quick disconnect cleaner. It is worth noting, as has been discussed, that a 10 kilometer difference between the instrument panel and the computer can cause issues. And they're saying instrument panel and BBS control, which is interesting because I thought the BBS was just for the like chassis control. I guess I can store mileage, but I thought that would have been in this unit here, when BBS is actually in the tail, so go figure. Anyway, here's a little menu that shows you what you can mess with and see. You can scroll through errors. I noticed that this says there's like a turn signal button, and the top one, I never even noticed the bottom button. I'm gonna check that before bed. And then there's electric fan controls called a eletroventole. So yeah, this guy here. There's the diagram of the BBS, which I'm not excited by. You can see the can low and high there. And then there's the color code for the wiring scheme as named here. There's a diagram that shows everything in the front area, which is mostly like left and right turn signals. Here's FIS. This would be fuel pump, injector system, and starter. However, these could easily be moved around. It is worth noting that like they have a different wiring schematic, like some are grounded, some are hot, some are not. Obviously your triggers are your triggers, but in terms of what the relays carry, some carry voltage, some carry ground, some I don't even know. What I can tell you is when the unit is just freshly turned on, if you have everything disconnected relay wise and you plug in just one at a time, you'll find the injector relay is the one that comes on and stays on the longest. The starter is obviously going to be the one that you find with the starter, and the fuel pump relay will be the odd man out, which you can actually check the voltage to the fuel connector while you're doing that, which I did. So here I see can low, right? And I don't know if that's a can high, if that's what they're trying to say there, can high line. I saw also K line, that's usually an ISO standard for ECU communications. And this part was the dirty one. And then over here we have all these things going on. And you can see S ground means signal ground. So sensor ground or signal ground, those should never be interacted with chassis. I don't know how it distinguishes or separates them. I can't find any way of telling them apart in Vivo with the voltmeter on continuity or other modes. So usually you can find a place, like when I disconnect everything on the entire bike, like all of these electronic systems, I still have continuity between what I consider a sensor ground and a chassis ground, so I haven't figured that out still, but I may have possibly not been checking a good sensor ground in that process. I just find that odd. All right, yeah, so this is your solenoid for your starter, and I don't think that's the issue with what we're chasing. I think what we saw on the bottom of the bike is a starter that does not have a Denso label on it, and as far as I can tell, you have to remove the cover from the left side of the engine to get to the bolts for the starter. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure. So won't be messing with that. Hopefully it's somehow the solenoid relays that I've, or sorry, the regular relays that I've got on order, which I doubt it, or the plugged EVAP canister, which I kind of doubt, but could be, and then from there we'll go from there.